And now turning to the breaking news this morning concerning legendary actor Gene Hackman. Authorities found Hackman, his wife, and their dog dead inside their Santa Fe, New Mexico home Wednesday afternoon during a welfare check.
Questions remain about the final days of the 95-year-old legend and his 65-year-old wife, Betsy Arakawa, at their home in Santa Fe. Investigators established that Hackman died on February 17th, 9 days before his body was discovered, by examining his pacemaker.
Hollywood icon Gene Hackman and his wife Betsy Arakawa were found dead in their Santa Fe home, and right away, people started asking questions. Something about the situation just didn't add up. Now, the New Mexico medical examiner has released their report revealing how and when they say the couple died. But is that the full story? Some aren't so sure. Rumors are swirling about possible financial motives and the idea that this might just not have been simply a tragic ending. So in this video, we're going to talk about what is known to the public, what some of those lingering theories are, and why I think in the end this is probably just a tragic story about the passing of one of America's most legendary actors. Let's get into it.
Life always matters very much.
He was admired by his peers and beloved by moviegoers. Eugene Alden Hackman was born January 30th, 1930 in San Bernardino, California. He grew up in Danville, Illinois with his maternal grandmother. Hackman dropped out of high school at 16 and lied about his age to join the Marines. He served in China, Japan, and Hawaii for 4.5 years. While in the military, he worked as an announcer on Armed Forces Radio. In 1951, Hackman made his way to New York, hoping to become an actor.
All right, Popeye's here.
Hackman's breakout role in 1971's The French Connection earned him his first Academy Award for Best Actor. He went on to play Lex Luthor, Superman's arch nemesis, in several films. Hackman also appeared in Reds, Hoosiers, and No Way Out. In 1993, Hackman won his second Oscar for Best Supporting Actor as a gunslinger turned lawman in Unforgiven. After stepping away from acting in 2008, Hackman wrote several books and continued painting, which he had said was one of his hobbies. Hackman had 3 children with his first wife, Faye Maltese, before getting divorced in 1986. He remarried in 1991. With over half a century in the public eye, Gene Hackman will be remembered for his intensity, charisma, and magnetism.
Gene Hackman was one of Hollywood's greatest actors, known for his tough looks, incredible acting range, and the way he made every character feel real. Whether he was playing a hero, a villain, or someone in between, audiences could always count on him to deliver a powerful performance. Overall, his career was packed with unforgettable films. He brought Superman's arch nemesis Lex Luthor to life, he commanded attention in Crimson Tide, he inspired in Hoosiers, and he kept everyone on edge in Enemy of the State and The Firm. But it was The French Connection that won him an Oscar and cemented his place as a Hollywood legend.
The deal hasn't gone down. I know it hasn't. I can feel it. I'm dead certain.
Last time you're dead certain, we went for dead cop.
However, everything changed when, on February 26, 2025, a quiet morning in Santa Fe turned into a scene of shock and tragedy. 2 maintenance workers arrived at Gene Hackman's home, expecting a routine day, but what they saw through the window stopped them cold. Inside, the legendary actor and his wife of 33 years, Betsy Arakawa, were lying motionless. Something was very wrong. Panicked, they rushed to find the caretaker of the gated community, who wasted no time calling 911. The urgency in their voice was clear.
Are they moving at all?
No, dude, they're not moving. Just send somebody out here really quick.
When Santa Fe County Sheriff's deputies arrived at the scene, they walked into a chilling sight. Betsy Arakawa, 65, was found lying on the bathroom floor near the front door. She was dressed in a sweatshirt and sweatpants, and on the countertop nearby, deputies noticed an open prescription bottle with loose pills scattered around. Just a few steps away, in a mudroom near the kitchen, they found Gene Hackman. The legendary actor was on the floor, his walking cane and sunglasses lying close by. As deputies searched the home, they made another heartbreaking discovery. One of the couple's 3 dogs was found dead inside a closet in the bathroom. At first, authorities thought it was their German Shepherd bear, but later confirmed it was their Australian Kelpie mix, Zinna. Meanwhile, another dog was lying near Betsy Arakawa's body, appearing healthy, while the third was running outside, seemingly unaware of the tragedy that had unfolded. That night, at around 9:30 p.m. on February 26th, investigators executed the search warrant on the home. The following morning, Gene Hackman and Betsy Arakawa's bodies were removed. Information about the deaths of Gene Hackman and Betsy Arakawa slowly came to light, and the scene inside the house was reportedly disturbing. Without getting too much into the gruesome details, investigators said there were signs that Hackman and Arakawa had been dead for a while. At first, authorities didn't see any signs of foul play, but something about the scene still felt off. There were no clear injuries, no signs of carbon monoxide poisoning, and no evidence that someone had broken in. But what made things even more strange was how they were found. It looked like both had suddenly fallen to the ground, making their deaths even more mysterious.
Meanwhile, Arakawa was found in the bathroom with an open bottle of prescription pills scattered on the counter. According to a separate warrant document obtained by People, the pills found were an unspecified thyroid medication, Tylenol, and a medicine used to treat high blood pressure. Just feet away, inside the bathroom closet, one of their dogs was also found deceased.
The sheriff's office made it clear they needed to dig deeper. Some other strange details also stood out. The front door was left slightly open. 2 healthy dogs were loose on the property, and more. According to the warrant, the situation seemed suspicious enough that someone may have broken in. And as they continued, one of the very first things they wanted to look into was whether or not there was some sort of a carbon monoxide leak. But on February 28th, Sheriff Mendoza confirmed that tests showed no signs of carbon monoxide in any of the bodies found in the home. However, he said, the police would continue discussing with the pathologist to make sure. Then on March 4th, the New Mexico Gas Company addressed speculation about a gas leak, and as a result, investigators said they were ruling out a gas leak as the cause of death. The gas company confirmed that while a tiny leak was found in a stove burner, it wasn't nearly enough to be deadly. Their investigation didn't find any other gas leaks or issues with the home's gas lines. Investigators did point out several other code violations in the house, however, but none were related to gas or carbon monoxide.
The gas company issued 5 red tags at the residence. One for a minuscule leak of gas in one of the stove burners that would not be lethal. 4 others were issued for code enforcement violations that did not involve a gas leak or carbon monoxide. One of their dogs was also found dead, but 2 other dogs survived and are being taken care of at a boarding facility.
But then on March 7th, the mystery surrounding the deaths of Gene Hackman and Betsy Arakawa finally got some answers. New Mexico's medical examiner, Dr. Heather Jarrell, revealed that Arakawa died from hantavirus pulmonary syndrome, a rare but deadly respiratory infection caused by exposure to rodent waste.
Laboratory testing was positive for hantavirus at a clinical lab, with required confirmation testing positive at Scientific Laboratories Division. Testing for COVID-19, influenza, and other common respiratory viruses was negative. Testing for carbon monoxide was negative. There were no other significant natural disease findings. Pills present on scene were thyroid medication, which were being taken as prescribed and is not currently a concern for a contributory cause of death.
As for Hackman, the public learned that he was already in poor health, suffering from advanced Alzheimer's disease and significant heart disease. Dr. Jarrell stated that his declining condition was likely what ultimately led to his death.
The cause of death for Mr. Gene Hackman, aged 95 years, is hypertensive and atherosclerotic cardiovascular disease, with Alzheimer's disease as a significant contributory factor. Autopsy examination and a full-body postmortem CT examination demonstrated no acute findings of internal or external trauma and showed severe heart disease, including multiple surgical procedures involving the heart, evidence of prior heart attacks, and severe changes of the kidneys due to chronic high blood pressure. Examination of the brain showed advanced Alzheimer's disease, as well as blood vessel changes in the brain secondary to chronic high blood pressure. Laboratory testing performed at Scientific Laboratories Division was negative for COVID-19, influenza, and other common respiratory viruses. Testing for hantavirus was negative. Testing for carbon monoxide was negative.
And what's more, authorities believe that Arakawa died on February 11th and that Hackman died a week later on February 18th.
I have been asked when death occurred for these individuals. There is no reliable scientific method to accurately determine the exact time or date of death. Mr. Hackman's initial pacemaker data revealed cardiac activity on February 17th. With subsequent pacemaker interrogation demonstrating an abnormal rhythm of atrial fibrillation on February 18th, which was the last record of heart activity. Based on this information, it is reasonable to conclude that Mr. Hackman probably died around February 18th. Based on the circumstances, it is reasonable to conclude that Ms. Hackman passed away first, with February 11th being the last time that she was known to be alive.
Now, considering that shocking news, people wanted to know what could have happened in that whole week between their deaths.
Just to repeat so that everyone could hear, the question was, do we believe that Mr. Hackman was able to live on his own and survive? The answer to that question is that Mr. Hackman showed evidence of advanced Alzheimer's disease. I'm not aware of what his normal daily functioning capability was. He was in a very poor state of health. He had significant heart disease, and I think ultimately that is what resulted in his death. I was able to look at fluid to determine if he was dehydrated, and I did not see evidence of dehydration. I did see evidence of very poor kidney function, and I think he died as a result of his heart disease and with Alzheimer's being that contributing factor.
What about starvation?
The question was, what about starvation? So there was no food in his stomach, which means he had not eaten recently, but he had also no evidence of dehydration.
So based on your understanding of the progression of the Alzheimer's, do you believe that he was possibly not aware that his wife had died or didn't know what to do in that situation?
It's difficult to answer. The question was he aware that Ms. Hackman had died? And I think that question's difficult to answer, but
Now, obviously, this sounds like a horrifying and tragic end to both of their lives, as well as their dog. But not everyone is convinced that that's the full story. As an example, actor Randy Quaid isn't buying it. You might recognize Quaid from movies like Christmas Vacation and Independence Day.
Hello, boys! I'm back!
Quaid has taken to social media saying that he thinks Gene Hackman and Betsy Arakawa were murdered. According to Quaid, this wasn't just a tragic coincidence. He believes someone had a motive and was after Hackman's massive income from film residuals. Quaid's theory suggests that some powerful figures may have orchestrated the deaths to cash in on Hackman's earnings. And while there doesn't seem to be much of any real evidence that he's presenting to support these claims, his accusations have fueled some conversation. And here is another weird twist in this whole story. If you read through the initial search warrant for the Hackman home, you'll find a certain name in one of the investigators that searched the home, Corporal Alexandria Hancock. And if you've been following along with this channel for a while, you might actually recognize that name. Corporal Hancock was the lead investigator in one of Hollywood's most shocking criminal cases, the fatal shooting of cinematographer Helena Hutchins on the set of Rust. Hancock was the one who led the investigation into actor Alec Baldwin and armorer Hannah Gutierrez-Reed. Baldwin, who was holding the gun when it discharged, faced legal scrutiny, while Gutierrez-Reed was actually convicted of involuntary manslaughter and sentenced to 18 months in prison. But Baldwin's trial, which followed Gutierrez-Reed's trial, never actually concluded because what came out just a few days into his trial was absolutely shocking. You see, a big issue by both defendants in both of these cases was how live rounds made it onto a movie set in the first place when only blanks and dummies were supposed to be anywhere near this set. And as it turns out, the state withheld some potentially exculpatory evidence having to do with how those live rounds made it on set and where they might have come from. This is what's known as a Brady violation, named after Brady v. Maryland, a case decided by the U.S. Supreme Court. Under the Brady rule, prosecutors are legally required to share any evidence in their possession that could help the defense. Withholding such information is a serious violation of a defendant's constitutional rights, and in Baldwin's case, it was enough to dismiss his case entirely. And one of the people working for the state that appears to have been part of the supposed cover-up was none other than Corporal Alexandria Hancock. During the hearing on the Brady violation issue, she actually testified that she knew about this evidence and that she knew that it was set aside by the state in some secret file that they didn't share with the defense when they were supposed to. This was pretty dirty stuff. And now, Hancock's name appears again, this time in connection with the deaths of Gene Hackman and Betsy Arakawa. And so with her involvement, there are some interesting questions that do legitimately come up. For example, do we trust that this investigation is being handled correctly, or do we feel a little bit skeptical about it? Will the Santa Fe Sheriff's Department truly leave no stone unturned until they find the truth? Or will they leave things at a conclusion that might be most convenient for them? Of course, none of this means that automatically this investigation is being done improperly, but the history of these kinds of issues can inform people's skepticism into the current investigation. It's definitely reasonable to do so. But even with all of these questions, and looking back to the allegations that Randy Quaid has made about this potential financial motive, hypothetically, how would someone even benefit from murdering people like the Hackmans? One thing to look at, and one thing that Quaid seems to point to, is residuals. When an actor stars in any movie, there often is payment not just for the time spent working on the film's production, but also for essentially the public's enjoyment of the work itself. Every time that movie airs on cable or is streamed through a streaming service, a writer, an actor, or the director of the movie might get a portion of the fees. So if an actor stars in a big movie that becomes a classic, then they likely get the benefit of large residuals for a long period of time. And if you're someone like Gene Hackman, who was in a lot of very good, very well-received movies that were played again and again and again on TV, you have to imagine that he was getting a lot of it in terms of residuals over the years. Residual payments can also last for decades, sometimes even indefinitely, depending on the contract that the actor signs with the production company and the industry guild. And in the US, residuals are typically handled by entertainment unions like SAG-AFTRA or the Writers Guild of America. And after an actor or writer passes away, the residuals typically don't just disappear. They continue being paid just to that person's estate. So if the actor left behind a full estate plan with a trust, for example, instructions for where those residuals go after they die will typically be in that plan and in that trust instrument itself. So looking at Gene Hackman's case, we know that he left behind 3 children and multiple grandchildren. Most likely, these individuals will probably inherit his estate, depending, of course, on how he and Betsy Arakawa structured their estate planning. And if they had a solid plan in place, these details will almost definitely remain private. That's because well-planned estates usually involve the creation and administration of a trust, which is usually administered outside of probate court. And since Hackman was a Hollywood legend with decades of successful films, his estate could include substantial assets, reportedly around $80 million. And so if his plan was thorough, his heirs could continue to benefit from his legacy without any legal complications. And so thinking back to the allegations that Randy Quaid is making about this whole financial motive, if they were true, there would need to be some way for someone outside of the estate beneficiaries to be able to come in and intervene and either take those residuals or prevent the payment of those residuals. However, unless Hackman's residuals were structured in a way that they would stop upon his death, which seems incredibly unlikely, Quaid's theory sounds like it comes up empty. And it's my understanding that most Hollywood contracts probably ensure that residuals continue to be paid to an actor's estate after their passing. And so I don't see why that wouldn't be the case also for Hackman. And even when it comes to the family that Gene Hackman and Betsy Arakawa have left behind, the people who would benefit from them passing away. There are laws that prevent someone from inheriting an estate if they have, in some very material and unlawful way, carried out the death of that person. This is called the Slayer Rule. Under the Slayer Rule, if someone is found guilty of unlawfully causing another person's death, they are legally barred from inheriting anything from that victim's estate. This includes assets from wills, trusts, and life insurance payouts. The rule exists to ensure that no one benefits from violent wrongdoings, and it results in the murderer getting essentially disinherited under law. So while it's always possible that someone who dies with a considerable amount of wealth has people who might be looking to benefit from that wealth through unsavory means, I don't know that there's really all that much here to suggest it. In the end, this really just seems like a heartbreaking story about a tragic end of a legendary actor and his beloved wife, and a very sad story for the family as well. But those are my thoughts. What do you think? Do you think that something is still off in this whole story, knowing what we know from the medical examiner's report? Or do you think that this is just a really sad, horrible end to someone's life and people should just let the dead rest in peace? Let us know your thoughts in the comments down below. Otherwise, I hope you enjoyed this or at least found it interesting or informative. And if you did, I would love it if you would hit the like button. It does help us with the YouTube algorithm gods. And if you're new here and you want to see more coverage of crazy cases and interesting legal topics, be sure to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell so you can find out when the next video is uploaded. And if you really enjoy the content and you want to know how to best support the channel, consider becoming a member of Byte Club. You can join either through YouTube memberships or by becoming a supporter on Patreon. Links to both are in the description below. Otherwise, see you in the next one.